Good morning. Happy Sabbath. Welcome to my living room floor. Today's story is a little bit different than most of the stories. I have been reading stories on Facebook Live and on YouTube on a pretty regular basis. And today I have a guest reader. But I don't have another person with me. So who is our guest reader? Well, there is a missionary called Eric B Hare, and he was a wonderful storyteller and had lots of stories from his time in the mission field. And today I want to share his voice and one of his stories with you. So to that end, I have this funny looking thing, which some of you probably know what it is, and some of you probably don't. It kind of looks like a little suitcase. It has a handle for carrying and some latches to close the lid, but it also has a cord, which is behind me, plugged into the wall. And this is what is called a record player. And I have here a number of stories from Eric B Hare. This one is called Silver and the Snake. This one is called White Bean. And here we have Sweet Potatoes. And these are all wonderful stories. But this isn't a book. This is a record. It kind of looks like a giant CD. So here's the thing. You open the suitcase, and there's this little turny thing, and you put the record on top of it. And then you turn it on, and it starts to spin. And the way it plays is there are little grooves cut in the record, and you take this, and this has a little piece of wire, a little needle on it, and you put it on those grooves and you get noise. But you can also adjust the speed that it spins at over here. So sometimes if you have a record that is set for a slower speed, you can make them sound like the chipmunks. Or if it's set for a faster speed, you can make them sound like whales. And it is a lot of fun. So this story might be a little bit longer than some of our other stories have been because I'm going to let Eric B Hare tell it from the record player. And we are listening to the story Pip Pip, the Naughty Chicken. And so I have our chicken over here, and we're going to be doing some little motions and things to keep the interest while we listen to the record Pip Pip, the Naughty Chicken, read by Eric B Hare. Now, our record has two sides, so we're going to have to stop in the middle and turn it over, okay? So bear with me. Let's put it on. I have a soft little cloth here, and sometimes if your record gets dusty, you have to clean it off. So we're just going to use our little soft cloth to clean our record. It's a cloth used for cleaning glasses. Are you guys ready? All right, here we go.
Once upon a time, away over in our jungle home, we had a pet hen called Cluck Cluck. When she was sitting on her first nest of eggs, I often called in to see her and would say, "Well, Cluck Cluck, how are you this morning? Is everything quite all right?" And Cluck Cluck would say, "Cluck, cluck, 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 cluck." And I could easily imagine she was trying to say, "Yes, thank you, everything is just fine." As the days went by, we could hardly wait to see her little golden chickens. "Well, Cluck Cluck," I said one morning, "isn't it about time some of your little chickens were coming out of their shells?" And Cluck Cluck said, "Cluck, cluck, 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 cluck. It won't be long now, it won't be long now." And just then I heard a little noise. Tap, 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 tap. And I looked, and one of the eggs had a crack and a little hole in it. And I listened, and inside I could hear a faint little pip, 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 as the little chicken worked away to open up its shell. A little later I ran home to call Mother and the children, and by the time we got back to the chicken house and looked through the window, there we saw a little golden fluffy chicken standing right beside Cluck Cluck, and he was saying pip pip, pip 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 pip. So I said to the children, I know, let's call that little chicken Pip Pip, shall we? And all the children said, oh yes. So we called him Pip Pip. By evening, Pip Pip had 10 little chicken brothers and sisters, but Pip Pip was the biggest of all. We threw down some broken rice and watched to see what Cluck Cluck would do. Carefully she stood up, got off the nest, stretched her wings, then said, cluck, 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 and it sounded just like chicken talk for, now little chickens, you just watch me, and I'll teach you what to do. Then Cluck Cluck went scratch, 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 peck, 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 and all the little chickens went scratch, 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 peck, 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 and Cluck Cluck was talking to them all the time, and the little chickens were saying, pip, 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 all right, mother, all right, mother. And when the big round sun began to set, Cluck Cluck called, cluck, 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 and she seemed to be saying, come on, little chickens, it's time to go to bed now. And all the little chickens said, beep, 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 all right, mother, all right, mother. And they followed her into the nest and cuddled down underneath Cluck Cluck's wings and went sound asleep. The next day the little chickens had their lessons again. Cluck Cluck went scratch, 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 peck, 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 and all the little chickens went scratch, 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 peck, peck, peck. Then Cluck Cluck took them to the water dish and went sip, 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 and all the little chickens went sip, 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 sip. And at night, when the big round sun began to set, she called, cluck, 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 come on, little chickens, it's time to go to bed now. And all the little chickens answered, pip, 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 and they followed her into the nest and cuddled down under Cluck Cluck's wings and went fast asleep. One morning, while they were all busy going scratch, 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 peck, 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 sip, 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 old Mr. Hawk flew through the sky and saw those lovely golden chickens. Oh my, he thought, I'd like to have one of those little chickens for breakfast, I would. So he settled on a tree to see which one he would take. I'd like that biggest one, he said to himself, looking straight at Pip Pip. But Cluck Cluck saw old Mr. Hawk and screamed, cluck, cluck, cluck! Look out, there's danger! And every little fluffy chicken said, beep, 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 and ran for their lives straight to Cluck Cluck and hid under her wings. And old Mr. Hawk couldn't get any little chickens for breakfast.
That is the end of the first side of our record. So we have to turn it over to hear what's going to happen next. What do you think is going to happen? We're going to grab it, and put it on again, and now we have to put the needle on again so we can hear it.
The chicken.
Oh, that was too far. We got to start it at the right place.
The chickens grew bigger and bigger, and by, Pip Pip grew a little red cap right on the top of his head. And one morning he stretched his wings and found that he could say, and he just felt grown up all over. He didn't want to keep close to Cluck Cluck anymore. So while the other chickens were going scratch, 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 peck, 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 sip, 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 he walked off by himself to the furthest corner of the chicken yard. And Cluck Cluck said, you'd better be careful. You'd better keep close to me. But Pip Pip said, Pip, 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 Pip. I don't want to keep close. I'm not a baby chicken anymore. I'm a great big chicken now. And that night, when the big round sun began to set, and when Cluck Cluck called, come on, little chickens, it's time to go to bed, Pip Pip said, Pip, 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 Pip. I don't want to go to bed. I want to walk around some more, all by myself. So he didn't go into the chicken house, and he walked over to the furthest corner of the chicken yard all by himself. And while he was over there, the man who cared for the chickens came along and shut the door of the chicken house up tight, so that the wildcats and the snakes couldn't get in and do the chickens any harm. And when Pip Pip had walked around all by himself for a while, he came back to the chicken house and found the door shut tight. Pip, 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 he said. I don't care. I'm not afraid. I'm not a little chicken anymore, and I can sleep outside all by myself, I can. So he shut his eyes, folded his little head right under his wing, and went fast asleep. Now, just at this time, old Mr. Hiss the Snake, who lived over in the grass nearby, said to himself, "My, oh my, I'm so hungry. I need some supper. I think I'll go over to the chicken house and see if I can get in." So off he went through the grass, past the coconut trees, down the little path to the chicken house. But the door was shut tight and he couldn't get in. He went around the side, but he couldn't get in. He went around to the end, but he couldn't get in. He went around to the other side. And there was Pip Pip all by himself, sound asleep. Quietly, old Mr. Hiss went up close to Pip Pip, lifted up his head, opened his mouth wide, and looked out at Pip Pip. And the first thing Pip Pip knew, he was inside the snake's mouth. He just had time to call, "Beep, beep, 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 mother, mother!" And that woke Cluck Cluck up, and she screamed, "Cluck, cluck, cluck!" That woke all the uncle chickens and the auntie chickens up, and they said, "Cluck, cluck, cluck!" That woke the man who cared for the chickens up, and he shouted, "Hey, hey!" That woke the boys in the school up, and they shouted, "Hey, hey!" That woke me up, and I shouted, "Hey, hey!" The noise in the chicken house told us where the trouble was. So we snatched our torch lights and our big sticks and ran quickly to the chicken house. The door was still shut, so we looked for animal tracks, and there we saw old Mr. Hiss's trail. Quickly we followed it to the grass. We heard a rustle. We shined our lights. There was old Mr. Hiss himself. The old snake was quickly killed and dragged out into the path. But it was the queerest looking snake I have ever seen. It had a great big lump in its middle. And do you know what that big lump was? It was Pip Pip, the naughty, disobedient chicken. Old Mr. Hiss the Snake had eaten him all up. And as we were burying the snake, I could hear Cluck Cluck in the chicken house saying, "Cluck, cluck, 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 cluck." And I think she must have been trying to say, "Oh, Pip Pip, if you'd only obeyed Mother, you might have been safe and sound with us now."
That is the end of our story by Eric B Hare. And it's kind of a sad story, isn't it? It ends without a happy ending. But did you know that Jesus says that he is a little bit like Cluck Cluck the chicken? In Psalms 91:4, it talks about God. And God says that he is our refuge and our fortress. And it says, he will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. That's just like the little chicks when they ran away from Mr. Hawk and hid under Cluck Cluck's wings. And in the book of Matthew, Jesus looks at the city of Jerusalem, a city that he loves, but full of people who he knows will cry out and ask for him to be crucified in just a little while after this happens. And he looks at that city and he says, O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who kill the prophets and stone those sent to you, how often I have longed to gather your children together, as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, but you were not willing. I hope that you are willing for God to gather you under his wings. He wants to protect you like Cluck Cluck wanted to protect Pip Pip. And we are told that the devil is powerful, even though Jesus is much more powerful. And we know that in the book of Genesis, he goes about as a serpent. He wants us to be foolish, to make bad choices like Pip Pip did, and to follow him to destruction. But if we will follow Jesus, we can be safe and warm, gathered under his wings, and we can go to heaven and have eternal life. So I hope that you have enjoyed this story from Eric B Hare, and maybe we'll have to do another one with the record player one of these days. Happy Sabbath. Have a blessed Sabbath day.